Hey everyone! Welcome back. I am back today with more RWBY and something a little bit different. If you're joining me early today, it means you are one of my awesome patrons. Thank you so much, and as always, I'm sending up those big old hugs right through that screen. And if not, still thank you for joining me today. I'm glad you're here. I do hope you'll consider supporting me that way. The link to my Patreon is going to be in the description down below. So, yeah. Basically, if you're watching this on YouTube, this won't be an issue because I'll just release them at the same time. But it turns out when I watched the Volume 4 World of Remnants, I watched 4 episodes because I'm used to them being 4 episodes in total. And this particular one had 4 episodes after that that were also part of Volume 4 World of Remnant. And I just... I skipped those because I assumed that they were for another volume, because when I watch them on YouTube on Rooster Teeth's playlist, and it doesn't really say, it just says like episode. They were included, however, on Crunchyroll, which is where I usually watch RWBY, but I do them on Rooster Teeth because, they're all like in a row, and the way they do them on Crunchyroll is they split them up in between, like, they'll have episode 3, and then 3.5 is one of the World of Remnants. So when I'm doing them all in a video, it's just easier to have them all on a playlist. It's going to play like one after the other. So that's like a very roundabout way of telling you, a very long version of telling you that my Volume 4 World of Remnant reaction was incomplete. And I'm here today to finish it up and watch the next 4 episodes of Volume 4 World of Remnant, which I'm really excited about. And I'm told that the last one is like especially important. So, which is typically, I think, what they do with the World of Remnants. Like, they'll have a couple that are, you know, okay, they explain things, and then the last one will kind of be like the juicy one. I don't know if we're lucky enough to have these ones narrated by Crow the way that we were with the other 4. It does feel like these 4, guessing based on their titles, are kind of covering different subjects, whereas the previous 4 were kind of covering all the different places of the world that we're in RWBY. But maybe we'll get lucky and it'll be narrated by my man Crow. I don't know, you guys. I would love to find out with you. One thing I'm going to point out really quickly before I get started on this, because it's just too good of a fun fact to go unsaid. Apparently, the World of Remnant, like the map that we saw in the previous 4 World of Remnants, I should say, is based on a ketchup stain that Monty made and an IHOP. And then they just, like, worked from there, apparently. I absolutely love that. Because I talked in my previous Volume 4 reaction about, just the intricate care and detail that goes into the world building here. And it does, don't get me wrong. But knowing that it all started with, like, a ketchup stain, I just can't tell you what that does for my heart and my mind and my soul. It is so much fun. I love fun facts like that. And I love that you guys are always very quick to fill me in on stuff like that. So thank you to the people who fill me in about that. I will look forward to hopefully more fun facts in the future. So, all right, guys, what do you say we go ahead? We get started on the rest of the Volume 4 World of Remnant episodes. Let's go. And this one is called... Are they going to tell us what it's called? Between Kingdoms. Okay. Please still be Crow narrated.
So, now you know more about the kingdoms. But what's between the big cities?
What?
Alright, the easy answer is Grimm.
Grimm, that's what I would have guessed.
They're out there. Probably won't go well if you run into one. That's okay, because you're a huntsman.
There you go.
Or huntress. And you've trained at one of the major academies, so you're probably fine. Just don't get yourself overrun by a pack of them.
Okay. Some great numbers.
Now, after a long day of killing Grimm and saving the world, you're going to probably want to stop at a small town inn.
Uh-huh.
Small villages dot the land between the major cities.
Okay.
You might ask, with the wilderness being so dangerous, why not just live in the big cities?
Yeah, that is actually kind of a good
that
question.
Life isn't meant for everyone. These
Oh,
small
okay.
towns are founded by people that have a problem with the kingdoms, or don't want to deal with the kingdom's problems, or maybe just enjoy the simpler life and would rather take their chances in the wild than in a kingdom.
Okay.
It goes about as well as you'd think.
That's kind of what happened to the one that Ren was from?
The founders are smart, and there's a good chance these towns can survive for the same reason the kingdoms continue to.
Geographic. Yeah.
Strong defenses. Stubborn citizens.
Stubborn
If you don't have
citizens.
at least a few of those, then the chances of a town lasting more than a year isn't great.
That's too bad.
Fortunately, it's not just the Grim running around ruining towns.
Oh boy.
Bandits are another threat.
Okay,
These
makes
groups
sense.
of usually fairly skilled fighters travel the lands, never settling in one place. They often prey on convoys, sending goods between kingdoms. That's not all. These raiders will often wait for a town to be at its weakest, maybe after a Grim attack, or while its fighters are out hunting, before finally moving in at night and striking. Jerks.
Crow, I love you.
If the Grim hadn't attacked before, you'd better be damn sure they will now. And you can't exactly have bandits raid your town without at least a few negative emotions.
Negative emotions. Right, let's not forget that.
Bandits never stay in the towns they conquer. With attitudes like the ones they have, Grim tend to be pretty interested in them as well.
So they gotta keep
moving. They've got a better chance of survival.
Wow.
Besides these small towns, the areas between kingdoms really depend on the continent. Harsh deserts, icy tundras, lush forests, you name it. At this point, pretty much every inch of Remnant has been mapped out. Although there are some areas that no one's gone into and come out alive.
Really? And I wonder if we're gonna get to...
Somewhere out there is where she is.
Salem.
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind
Oh my god!
related content. Check out
Okay. First of all, Crow. Second of all, that was really interesting. Because I had wondered about the places in between, and we did get to see a little bit of that. I think Ren's town that we saw, as well as we saw another one that was kind of similar, had a similar end, was like one of those. They kind of just didn't want to be part of the cities and just kind of were not into the whole kingdom thing, and so they just kind of went off on their own, and some of them do okay depending on like where they're geographically located, what the townspeople are like, and so forth, and some of them don't fare that well. The bandits are an interesting concept. I mean, that makes total sense. Like, not all our bad things are going to happen because of monsters, you know. Clearly there's going to be threat from humans too. As we've seen, like, you know, humans on the show have done a lot of damage. We've seen that. Very interesting to me that the bandits, it's such a great concept because the bandits kind of breed negativity, but they also have a lot of negativity in their group, so they have to keep moving because they're not safe from the Grim, and they bring the Grim to other places. That's clever right there. All right, I'm really glad I checked out these other 4. Like, I was gonna do it as soon as I knew about them anyway, but we're getting, and we get more Crow. Oh my god, I'm so happy. All right, guys, we're gonna check out the next one, which is titled Faunus. Let's go. This one's about the Faunus. I should also point out, where is Salem? Where is she located in there?
You know, most of us spend a lot of time talking about mankind versus Grim, but technically there is a third party in the mix, the Faunus. In case you're not in the know, the Faunus are a species on Remnant that appear to be human in just about every way but one. Each Faunus has a single animalistic trait.
Okay.
Some more apparent than others. Ram
Right.
horns, tiger claws, cat ears. I swear, on my huntsman's license, I once saw a guy regrow his severed lizard tail. I swear, no amount of drinking can make you forget that pretty picture.
Oh,
As far as
crap.
everyone's aware, Faunus have been around as long as mankind, if not a little longer. History gets a little fuzzy past a certain point, but we do know that their kind and ours are completely compatible from a biological standpoint.
Yeah. Yep.
Take two wolf faunus, and you get a little wolf cub kiddo. A wolf faunus and a human also typically means your little bundle of joy's teething phase could get a little dicey. But if you take a wolf faunus and a bull faunus, for example, it's a complete roll of the dice. For all you know, you could be cleaning up your son's shedded snake skin.
So it could make a
Scientists are
totally
still
different
scratching their heads when it comes
animal
to, well, a lot about the faunus. But science isn't the
Interesting.
real problem. It's how we all get along. Or
Yeah.
in this case, how we don't.
Yeah.
Early man was scared to death of the faunus. And honestly, it's not too hard to sympathize with that. Seeing something that looks like you and acts like you walk out of the forest and reveal a pair of fangs can be a little upsetting. Like most
you gotta
things, man
talk
doesn't
it. Talk it
understand,
out.
all sorts of rumors and stories surround the faunus. People avoided them like the plague, pushing them out of settlements and sometimes even hunting them down.
Oh my
Man
god.
began to outnumber the faunus, and the faunus began to consider man nothing more than a hostile species.
Eh,
Can't really blame them.
yeah, no.
These clashes between species were unavoidable, as land that was safe from the Grim was in constant short supply. But it was the Grim that finally brought humans and faunus together for the first
Common
time.
enemy.
A village in Sanus fell under attack, and the only reason anyone survived was because the humans and faunus united against their
Work
common
together. Maybe they actually like had a
It was a step in the right
conversation.
direction, but it didn't fix everything.
No.
Once humanity learned they weren't so different from the faunus, they still
Oh,
used those
no.
differences as an excuse to exploit and alienate them. Treatment
Oh.
of the faunus differed around the world, and things wouldn't improve much for them until the Great War.
The Great War.
Veil and vacuo against Mantle and Mistral. A war
Oh.
unlike anyone had ever seen. And when it was over, the world was desperate to find compromises that would ensure they'd never see the likes of it again.
Yeah, but
Faunus were awarded equal rights as citizens of Remnant, and as an apology, they were given an entire continent of their own to do with as they pleased.
we know it's not.
There were some that saw this as
Big.
fair and just, but many saw it for what it really was. A slap in the face from a nation of sore losers. So a menagerie was born. There's still faunus all over the world, though the fair
Yeah.
treatment they were promised varies in quality from place to place.
Well, we've seen that.
Menagerie will always be their safe haven. Here's the thing, though. You can only push and prod people so much before they reach a tipping point. And when you pack those people together, it just makes it all the easier for them to get organized and get
Which
even.
is the White Fang. Which is how the White Fang happened.
Hope you enjoyed that
I
peek
mean,
for RWBY.
here's the thing though. That continent was not very big. Like, we saw that in the show. It is kind of a slap in the face. It really is. That was really interesting. I know we're gonna learn more about the Great War. And he mentioned that, you know, it was a slap in the face from sore losers. So, did the Great War have a lot to do with the Faunus? Or, like, who is the losing side? I feel like maybe they've gone into this before, but I'm sure we'll learn a lot more in the actual Great War World of Remnant episode, which is coming up after, not after this one, but the one after. Wow, I love having this laid out. It is so nice. And again, just have to appreciate all the world building that they've done on this show. It's really sad to me that in all that time, it really sounds like, okay, yes, man was afraid. Understandable reaction, like, the first time you see a Faunus. But it's really sad to me that, like, they couldn't have a conversation, you know? And maybe they did, but it sounds like there was just a lot of time of, you know, just humans being scared and kind of, like, you know, hunting, pushing them out of the land. Like, it's just sad that in that time, somebody probably took the time to get to know someone who was a Faunus. But as a people, like, that didn't happen. That's really sad. It's really sad that all that time... It's like, no wonder. If you're a Faunus, like, no wonder you're going to feel, like, very oppressed, because they were. And even now, like, you can publicly give someone equal rights, and that doesn't undo all that history. It doesn't undo the hearts of people and how they feel based on that history and what the world that they've been raised into and the ideas that they have about Faunus and everyone. And we have seen proof of that throughout the show, and just how there's still a lot of just casual racism towards the Faunus. And yes, there's definitely a lot of people trying to work against that, but clearly it's still a thing. So, okay. So glad that we have all this laid out. All right, guys, let's move on to the next one. Schnee Dust Company. This should be good, because there's a lot about Weiss that, like, apparently her mom is the dad married into the company. So, like, I'm very curious to hear all about this. Let's go. Can't wait to learn more.
All right. What was I supposed to talk about next? Oh boy.
Oh!
Yeah, okay. I've got a few words to say about this one.
Oh!
Dust Company.
Ooh!
Self-entitled, monopolizing SNOBs who only care about making a profit, no matter how many little people they gotta step on to make it happen.
He's got some thoughts.
That's just my opinion. As you
It's-
all know, survival in the world of Remnant depends almost entirely on a crystallized substance known as dust. It powers our cities, fuels our machines, and gives us a fighting chance against the creatures of Grimm.
Right.
Which means it's extremely valuable.
Right.
Nowadays, it's almost impossible to buy dust products without the Schnee Company snowflake stamped on the box.
They kind of have a monopoly.
It used to be that way. Nicholas
Okay.
Schnee was the son of a dust miner turned soldier, born just after the Great War. He found himself at the perfect point in history to take full advantage of the world's next industrial revolution. The
Oh.
kingdom of Mantle, soon to be Atlas, was in a transformative period. They'd found themselves on the forefront of technology, but realized they depleted nearly all of their natural resources to do so.
That's when
That's
dust.
where old Nick came in.
Oh.
Rather than watch his kingdom become dependent on the aid of others, young Nicholas Schnee decided to spend his days at combat school, his nights working alongside his father in the dwindling Mantle mines, and any time in between learning everything he could about anything he didn't know. Thank God he
Wow.
had fire in his belly. When
Okay.
his father died, he left his son everything he had. It wasn't much, but it was enough for Nick to set his plan into action. He left school, rallied all the men he could afford, and set out on an expedition to find a dust deposit that could revitalize his kingdom. As you
Okay.
know, he actually pulled it off.
Ah. Well,
Fast
obviously he
forward
did.
just a few years, and the name Schnee suddenly meant something. Quality, affordability, trust. See,
Wow.
all those years spent in combat school were so that Nick could personally oversee every new expedition. Appreciate a man who's willing to stick his neck out for them. And It's how the Schnee Dust Company earned the business of every kingdom and remnant.
So they didn't start out bad.
It's also what led to an early retirement. Nick had started a family that missed him, and his body was tired. Years of working in dust mines can have some nasty side effects on your health.
I'll bet.
And so enters Jacques Schnee. Having married into the family, Jacques decided to take the Schnee name over his own. He
Okay.
was, a lot of words I shouldn't repeat. He was a cunning businessman. Jacques managed to convince Nicholas that he was the perfect man to run the SDC in his place. From a certain point of view, he was right. Under Jacques' leadership, the Schnee Dust Company has become more profitable than ever.
At what cost?
Dominating the industry.
At what
All
cost?
The company sold. Cheap labor, dangerous working conditions, doing whatever it takes to destroy the competition. Jacques
That was a
Schnee doesn't care about
Faunus.
people. He cares about winning. And making sure he's got the best damn PR team in the world. The Schnee name still means something today, but as for what it'll mean tomorrow, well, your guess is as good as mine.
She's gonna turn it around. I don't know how, because now she's like disowned, but she will. I believe in her. I believe in her. All right, that was amazing, and getting Crow like all fired up about how much he hates the Schnee Dust Company was so much fun with his little doodles. Oh my god, that was amazing. Okay, so we knew that it was actually the mom who was a Schnee and all that, but I didn't know, like, honestly, I thought it probably went way farther back, but the company's not that old then. If he just took it over from the founder, who sounds like a genuinely decent person, to be honest. It sounds like he was really running his business responsibly. But then, you know, of course, Jacques comes along and... So was his name Nick Schnee because of like St. Nicholas and snow and winter and Christmas and all that, or is there a different reason? Because we know there's kind of like a snow, winter, frosty theme going with the whole Schnee family. Okay, that laid it all out. So he married one of Nick's daughters and took the Schnee name so that he could kind of have that. I mean, but where does Jacques come from then? Like, what is his backstory? I'd be curious to know. Not that I want him on my screen any longer, to be honest, because I'm pretty done with him, but it would be interesting to know. So we know that at this point, okay, so I finished off the volume by now. I should mention that. Maybe I should not have been spouting things off, just in case you were watching this between episodes. But, okay, spoiler alert. Weiss gets disowned. Not disowned, but she gets disinherited, I guess, as the heir of the company. So I really hope she can find a way to, like, I know it's really important to her to set things right with that company. And I believe in her. I believe I don't know how, because now apparently Whitney is the next one. But I believe in her. I believe she's going to come in and set things right somehow with her family's name. She is a lot more like the grandpa, the founder, who, you know, was willing to put the work in and willing to take responsibility and everything, and not just exploit cheap labor and be just an all-around jerk to everyone. So, all right, guys, last one. I'm told this last one is very important, so I'm excited, and they've already mentioned it a few times, the Great War. So what do you say we go ahead and we jump in? Let's go. All right. I'm so glad these are all narrated by Crow, too. God, so lucky. The Great War. It's between... The
Great War. What a terrible name for such a horrible time in history. Though the war itself lasted around 10 years, the century leading up to it was filled with so much tension, might as well lump them together. Most of that tension was coming from Mistral.
Okay.
Territories rich with resources and safe from Grimm have always been in high demand. But the Emperor of Mistral had managed to conquer nearly all that Anima had to offer.
Oh, that kind of looks
Thanks
like
in
Salem.
part to an unlikely friend, Mantle.
Okay.
The two kingdoms had formed an alliance. Mistral provided the small kingdom with goods unavailable in the frozen tundra. In
Okay.
return, Mantle introduced technological innovation as well as guidance in the settlement of Anima's cold, northern territory. It
Okay.
was good, until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't.
An incident in Mantle led to a strange and unexpected decree. The abolishment of the arts and repression of self-expression.
They've mentioned
People of
this.
Mantle had come to believe that they would be much safer from the Grimm if they could simply keep the emotions of the masses in check.
Wow.
Given Mistral's
Okay.
strong, artistic culture, many assumed this would be the end of their alliance.
Oh.
But they were wrong. Mistral complied, selectively,
Oh.
enforcing Mantle's wishes only in the outer territories, allowing the
Okay.
centralized powers to continue to live as they pleased.
Oh.
Not on yet. Mistral's full of jerks.
Oh,
People
I
of
was
Vale
catching
had
on.
a problem with this. Well, they had a problem with a lot of things Mistral and Mantle had been up to.
I'll bet.
Treatment of their citizens, use of slave labor, and their constant
Dang.
insistence that their way of life was what was best for everyone.
Oh.
Eventually, Mistral made the jump across the sea to the eastern coast of Samus. The
Okay.
small islands and peninsulas in the area were perfect to establish a settlement. They were so perfect, in fact, that Vale had just begun settling the area themselves.
Oh boy.
I think we can all guess what happened next.
Yeah. I think we can.
Vale did everything he could to avoid armed conflict. Despite cries from his people, he insisted on sharing the land with the settlers from Mistral. But to this day, no one knows who shot first.
Oh God.
What began as a riot between the two bands of settlers
Oh, turned
suddenly
into.
become the first battle of the Great War.
Oh man. And so Vale was
Mantle quickly
partnered
came
with.
to Mistral's side. Battles were fought on both Sanus and Anima soil. Villages were lost to both combat and Grimm. And it wasn't long before Vacuo decided to join the party.
Got it.
Up to this point, Vacuo had done its best to stay out of the fight. Mantle and Mistral,
Okay.
having both already established a small presence in Vacuo territory years before, promised to leave them provided they didn't interfere. Soon, those talks evolved. It went from don't side with them to side with us and you'll be safe.
Okay.
Did not much care for that.
I bet they didn't.
Conclusion that if Vale were to fall, there'd be no one
Do they
left
have a
to stop
Faunus
Mistral
leader?
and Mantle from conquering them next. So they did what they considered to be the logical thing. They
Okay.
drove Mantle and Mistral out of Vacuo and told Vale they had their backs.
Okay. The side of a Vale.
I love their style.
Crow.
So the war raged on. Grim attacks increased worldwide.
I'll
The
bet.
battlefield, this meant a temporary ceasefire in order to deal with the hordes of monsters before returning
Yeah.
to the fight at hand.
Oh wow.
Left miserable back at home, however, were often helpless with
Were-
their best warriors away fighting the good.
Oh.
A lot
Oh.
of settlements were lost during these years, and most
Oh, I'll
were never
bet.
reclaimed. Rations on food and dust were put into effect. Development of technology accelerated. Humans and Faunus who fought alongside one another became closer. And every day,
Oh, okay.
mankind grew more and more efficient at destroying itself. But it all ended in the Vacuo campaign.
What was that?
Mistral and Mantle knew that if they could take the dust mines of Vacuo, they
Oh.
would effectively cut off the supply of dust to their enemy. It was to be a final devastating blow to Vale and Vacuo.
And what
They
happened?
were only half right. The King of Vale personally led his army into battle alongside the soldiers of Vacuo.
He sounds kind of decent. The Veil
Atop
King.
his head and armed only with a sword and his scepter, he laid waste to countless men.
Oh.
As the sand was soaked red with blood, the Grimm came in droves. It was
Oh,
the
God.
single deadliest battle of the war, and legends of the greatness and terror of the warrior king were born that day.
Really?
Historians will tell you most of these stories are nothing but grandiose hyperbole. Unusually violent weather conditions, combined with Mantle's unfamiliarity with the desert combat, are likely what led to such a high death count. But whatever the reason, everyone bowed to the King of Vale by the time it was over.
I
The
see.
Great War had ended.
Okay.
The
All right.
world was ready to live under the rule of Vale. But the king refused. The leaders of the four kingdoms met on the island of Vital. And
He
it was
didn't
there
wanna
that they worked
take all
together
that
to
power.
form a treaty and establish the future of Remnant.
Wow. Okay. Well, we knew that, but
Redistributed, slavery was abolished,
yes.
governments restructured, and the warrior king, the last king Vale would ever have, founded
Really?
the Huntsman academies and placed his most trusted followers in command of each kingdom school. He would teach the world
There we
to
go.
fight so long as we promised to fight for ourselves, and
Not
never
with
against
ourselves.
ourselves.
Got it. Wow, he was pretty decent.
Seems like we haven't kept our end of the bargain.
No,
Enjoy that
sweetheart.
peek behind the
I'm
curtain for
afraid you're
RWBY
right.
for more RWBY-related content.
Oh my god. Okay, so I've heard them talk about the Great War. I think we heard Osmond talking about how like the culture of arts and music culture was banned, and didn't he mention that like for that reason people started naming their kids after, what did they start naming their kids after? They started naming their kids because of that. I remember him saying that. That was like a few seasons ago, so I'm a little fuzzy on it. I want to say, did they start naming their, because a lot of people have names that are different colors? And also different planets. I don't know. I'll go back and check. You guys could probably fill me in. But I do remember him saying that like art and music and entertainment culture like was abolished for a while. Which honestly is a horrible and drastic way to deal with the fact that like Grimm are attracted to emotion and they decided to try and do away with emotion, which is a horrible plan, but it kind of makes sense that somebody thought of it. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's awful and I hate that they did it. And that would be complete and utter death for me because everything I love is like art, music, and entertainment. But I'm not surprised that somebody tried it, to be perfectly honest with you. Wow, so we got a lot about... One thing that I find interesting is that there were people who fled to get to that island because they were mad about what was going on, understandably so, in Mistral. But Mistral came and fought to back them up. Maybe like not the yeah, it must have been the government though. I was gonna say maybe not so much the government as like the people came and fought to back them up. That's the only thing I was like, were they really come and back up these people who like, you know, kind of like deserted their country or whatever, or their territory? But wow, that was highly informative, and you can see, I mean, clearly after any horrible war, you're like, dear God, no more war. But in this particular case, considering the sheer carnage that the Grimm alone could cause, because of the negative emotions involved with the people fighting in the war, the people left behind waiting for the people in the war to come home, all of those things. I mean, that alone, you would be like, let's never ever do that again. Let's never do anything that's going to upset the Grimm ever again. And of course, when you just get people in one, but it's just never, you're always going to have some kind of conflict. Sadly. But I think that this show does a lot to tell by means of metaphor with the Grimm, kind of an interesting story. They paint a very interesting picture about war and humanity and our capabilities of just greatness and love and positivity and other stuff that isn't so good. So, which is one of the many reasons why I love this show. So that was awesome. I'm so glad I checked those out. I'm so sorry again that I completely missed them in my first reaction. Really thought they were for a different volume. So are there no more World of Remnants now? Because that's the end of their playlist. So are there none between like volumes 5 and 6 and 6 and 7, 7 and 8? Did they like do away with the World of Remnants? Because I like the World of Remnants. That being said, oh my god, I'm dying for volume 5. And now finally I can get to volume 5. So grateful that they put the thought and effort and love that they do into these extras that help kind of immerse you more into this world and learn more. But I am so excited to get on. That's actually, after this, I'm filming my reaction to the first 2 episodes of Volume 5. So I'm like dying because I filmed so many extras at this point, and I'm like, Volume 5, come on. So all right, guys, that was awesome. I loved it. So much info. I'm so glad that I'm going to have all that in mind moving forward. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed watching along with me. And as always, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Please be sure to join me next time in Volume 5, and we will watch it together. Bye for now, guys.